It should be cutting taxes and cutting spending. By cutting the taxes, historically revenues have risen. Productivity increases. And so therefore we would have more dollars to work with that would invariably decrease the deficit. We need to address entitlements because they're the biggest contributor to the debt. And that is unsustainable. I don't necessarily believe you need to cut entitlements on those who are receiving benefits at this point. But down the road, we have to look at how we can address those entitlements for those of our children that are coming in.
Once we start creating jobs, we'll provide the excess revenue. That's how we've balanced it in the past. So we don't need to increase taxes. That is not the solution. That's been the problem here in this country, is bigger government. As long as we can provide more money to government, it will spend that money. And we've got to reduce the amount of money that they have so that they're forced to make priority decisions that put people back to work.
Deficit where the budget was balanced. Wasn't the taxes increased at that time? They were. Under
I think several of the ideas have been well established up here as far as what needs to be done. And I'd say that cutting these taxes, and I have signed a pledge to not increase taxes, so I just will not go home with that part of the question. I think one of the idea needs to be talked about is the idea of sunset provisions, and that is when you pass legislation, you put a 3, 5, 10-year limit on it, but then you need to revisit it at some point. So these entitlements, once implemented, don't just continue to grow. And once you start at the Department of Energy or Department of Education, it's just a bureaucratic mess that just keeps on growing and growing, regardless of results. And so I think there are a couple of checks and balances that need to be put into the provisions as we pass them. And I would also say Governor Christie in New Jersey, he was presented with a list of 378 recommendations on how to cut the budget in New Jersey, and he adopted 375. You turn it over to experts in the system, you listen to them, and then you enact, and you're just true with the people. You say, if this is what the people voted you in for, is to cut the excesses, then you cut the excesses, and turn it back over to people. And I can tell you, people in West Virginia are hardworking people. They simply want to keep the dollars that they earn rather than have to pull away from them and redistribute it. That's where you turn it back to, and let people have personal responsibilities instead of turning to the government for all their entitlements.
Okay. Mary Jo Petrello would be next. On deck, Jeff Pretty.
Two questions. One, it starts out as, I believe that there should be term limits, and I don't believe 12 years is a good number. 7 years or less, and that's being generous. We've all seen how politicians end up becoming seriously dishonest. Even though we have a vote, we keep voting the same people in, and they keep doing the same crappy job. So I want to know if you all believe in term limits, and if you will do something to make sure that everybody who represents us has term limits, including Supreme Court justices. And the second part of that is everybody who represents us in government has special health care and special retirement package, and I believe that should be done away with. They represent us. I feel that what we have should be good enough for anybody who's in office representing us, and I want to know what all of you intend to do about that.
Okay. The question is about term limits and also about government benefits, that Congress should have the same benefits as the people.
We all have said that we all agree with the term limit. If I ask every person in this room, they'd probably have a different answer on what that term would be. So I'm not going to come up with a specific
year or number of times that someone should go back into office. I happen to agree that politicians are like bananas. Many of you have heard that expression before. They start out green, and so they're new to the process, then they turn yellow and then understand the process, but as time goes by, they have a tendency to run. And that is true with the way we approach life, and it's human nature. So we need to get them out of office before they hit that stage.
When I was in the legislature, we pushed for that in the West Virginia legislature, and we also asked that also take place in the national level as well with term limits. We don't believe, or I certainly don't believe, that your service in public service should be a career. We have a career, and we should be able to step aside and provide that service for 1, 2 terms, 3 terms, whatever, some limit, some very short period of time, and then come back. But I'm very strong on term limits. I've got a voting record that says it. It's not just talk, it's a voting record. It's just as much, I think, that we ought to look at what they get, the benefits. There are reasons for people being in Congress for 50 years because of the huge benefits they're getting. I think we ought to stop all benefits to them so that term limits passed through because it would require a constitutional amendment, then we can strip the benefits. That will force them out. That's another way of doing it. I think that, and as well, that any health care benefits that they have in Congress shouldn't be any better than the health care benefits that we have in this room.
Anyone else? I have personally pledged that I don't want to be in Washington more than 6 years, 3 terms at the max. That's up to you. And you have that choice every 2 years. Term limits are great if that's the only thing it takes to keep legitimate, moral, principled people in Congress, then that's the way to go. I think one other move might help give a little more flexibility to it, and that is recall. It's held in many states, and it allows the voters at any point where they collect enough signatures, they can have a special election and vote the guy out right there on the spot.
I'm in favor of the term limits as well. I think somewhere anywhere between the 8 years that the president has, 2 terms as a senator, 12 years, so maybe 10 years for Congress, but I can support 8, 10, 12, whatever. But yes, it needs to be done. That's the first thing. The other piece was the benefits, and there's been something going around the internet about the 28th Amendment. That would be an amendment that says Congressmen are held to the same standards as everybody else. I'd be in favor of that. There's, again, no special privileges for Congressmen.
I don't want to talk behind Mr. Mulligan's back, but he's not here, so I'm going to talk behind his back. His reaction to term limits is he says we already have term limits, you could vote me out. Unfortunately, as we all know, they gather their special interests and the unions behind them, and they can stay in office, pretty much for as long as they want. So that was his reaction. I thought you might like to know, since I was not here.
I'm going to leave it up to you. We can keep asking questions. There's still got a lot of asking. Or we can cut off the questions now, and candidates agree to mingle with you after they give their closing statements, and you can talk to them one-on-one. What would you prefer? Want to keep going with questions? Is that all right with the candidates? Raise hands, questions. Okay. And another side? Chair's not. Chair's not. Okay, we'll keep asking questions.